Bonjour à tous et bienvenue.
Good afternoon. I'm Romain Thirion. I'm, in fact, the Deputy Chief Editor of ZEPROS Carrosserie. With the participants of this roundtable session, spent 40 minutes to talk about the treatment of the electric vehicles in body shops. And we're going to look at the material needs for this. We're going to try to demystify certain ideas with regards to the body repair work on electric vehicles. We have Stéphane, who's responsible for technical qualifications at BMW Group. Thank you. You have Sébastien, ALUNNI, who is the director and founder of ALBAX, Groupe ALBAX, Carrosserie LECOQ. You're one of the main independent bodywork groups in France, yes? I'm replacing my son here. So sometimes I'll have to use my notes because it was his presentation. Yes, so we are indeed the ALBAX LECOQ Bodywork. Philippe Barrault, you are from Class Equipment. We are garages and workshops. Sébastien, you are from GNFA, which is the National Group for Automobile Training, and Jean-Marc Donatien, you're president of Mobiliance, which is a body shop branch, one of the important vocational training sectors in automobile bodywork. An introduction. You know that the passenger cars, electric passenger cars in France represent just 2% of the park. Out of 1,777,000 vehicles registered in 2022 in France, 232,000 are in fact electric vehicles. So from 2036 up to 40% of the park could be electric cars. This is from the barometer on vehicles. Stéphane, in fact, you represent BMW Group, who is on this show exhibiting, and your BMW's range, in fact, of the electric vehicle at BM go back to 2008, E3, for example. So what is specific to the BMW platforms for electric vehicles compared to an ICE version in terms of structure and assembly, and what is specific in terms of materials? Thank you. BMW is not behind in terms of electric vehicles. You know that 10 years ago, BMW was launching a urban city car, in fact, and the 3. You know that in 2013 on this vehicle, we had a live module and a drive module on the BMW i3. In the lower section, you had the running gear, the vehicle battery. You had an aluminum architecture. On the top, you had a structure, a carbon structure. And the idea was to reduce the weight of the vehicle. You know that on an electric car, the enemy to be combated is weight. And so for the BMW i3, which was sold to the tune of 200,000 vehicles in the world with this technology, what was surprising about the technology was between the live and drive modules, you had, in fact, the two contacts brought together. If we look at the preceding slide, you see you have 4 sites in France which can intervene on the carbon portion, that is to say the integrated bodywork of the vehicle, and so they can work on the carbon portion only. Because today, the manufacturing line, and you said so at the automobile show, you have the new 5 Series, the i5, which is 100% electric. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see the design of these bodies, whether they receive a rechargeable hybrid block, an ICE, or an electric. They're they're all quite similar in design. So today, repairs on the electric cars, whether you have a PHEV or an ICE, there is in fact little difference at BMW. The volume has led the platforms converge for the different types of engines. Exactly. On this slide, once again, we've worked on the weight of the vehicle. You see different materials which are used to make the vehicle. Aluminum, different types of steels, plastic. You have high yield strength steels, for example, to guarantee the safety of the occupants of the vehicle. And even with the plastics, once again, you have carbon parts. We reuse BMW's know-how to apply it to certain portions of the vehicle, for example, the roof. If we look at all of this from the bodywork, the electrical systems, etc., does all this call for specific training at BMW? Yes, next slide, please. Indeed, all of the work involving the bodywork on the BMW is made of 3 repairs. First of all, simple things which are clipped together, like windows, etc. Anybody can do this. At the level 2 repair, here this is repairs on the external body, wings, for example. You have the bonding, riveting technology used for certain parts as well. Old technology at BMW. Level 3 repairs are structural repairs. Here, for example, you need to replace a suspension, a cantrail or something, and here you have training. So we have a slide. Here on the video, you're going to be able to see a body repair mechanic working on a suspension module. Before applying the adhesive for the bonding riveting operation, he's going to, in fact, increase the adherence of the adhesive between aluminum and other components by heating. You see, he heated the element so as to ensure that the adhesive will hold better, and then there will be the riveting operation to finish the assembly. Then the mechanic is going to eliminate the excess adhesive. 3 repair levels for bodywork at the BMW Group. We organize training for these 3 different levels of repairs. For the tooling aspects, we have representatives present who can better answer your questions. But the BMW Group has simply listed the needs in terms of tooling for these 3 levels of repair. So you have to have a riveting gun. You have different tools that I'm not going to list here. You know, a year ago, about the, electric vehicles represented 2.5% of visits to workshops. And you know that there's a lot of subcontracting in the body work. And so is there a lot of work done by independent body shops for BMW? What are the links with these subcontractors in terms of their skills, their expertise? So our bodywork network today is made up of 40% integrated sites. That is to say, 40% of BMW dealerships have an integrated body shop. So we subcontract 60% of bodywork. What we have asked for is that they be trained to the technical aspects of our product and processes. Could we have the slide? We're going to also ask them to answer repair processes and procedures. When you replace part of a floor, part of a wing, you have to place the vehicle in a safety mode. For electric cars, this might seem to be simple to you, but we have become aware of the fact that when you're a body worker, we have analyzed risks. Very often you have car bodies which have been accidented, and so we have to ensure that everyone work under safe conditions. Our own colleagues, those who work in body shops, which means that people have to be accredited to work on an electric car. Thank you. Max ALUNNI. The ALBAX group does repairs for a large number of automobile brands, some 15 or so. In terms of electric vehicle repairs, you were the first in France to repair a Tesla in one of your sites. You were the first to be accredited as a body repair shop for Tesla. Now, at ALBAX, what is the share of staff able to work on electric vehicles, and what is the portion of electric vehicles you work on? Today, about 20% of our employees are trained and accredited to work on electrical vehicles. That's 50 people. And that's about 27% of the invoiced repair hours on electric vehicles. 27% represents about, these hours are invoiced at a good price, I must say, because, we're no longer dealing with the rates applied by insurance companies. I would say that the repairs on electric vehicles represents about 9 million euros. As a multi-brand body repair operator, when we look at the question of paint, for example, for the electric vehicles because of the heat of the paint ovens. You need to know that given that the electric cars have heavy batteries, all of the structures are aluminum and composite structures chosen by the manufacturers. Because they use composites to a large extent, yes, we were the first to be approved by Tesla, but the Tesla accreditation is not really electric, but rather aluminum accreditation for the repairs, and we are accredited for that. Today, the aluminum structure is little repaired in the auto sector. You tend to replace the aluminum parts. So the car manufacturing is done with bonding and riveting operations, with HLE systems, etc. For the paint booths, obviously you can't do just anything in the paint booth. I remember that for the small Tesla coupe that we repaired, the Roadster, we could not submit it to more than 65 degrees heat in a paint booth for more than 20 minutes. Today it is 71 degrees maximum for any Tesla, and it's more or less the same for all of the brands we represent. Because of the 15 brands that we are accredited for, they all have electric cars: Porsche, Ferrari, Jaguar, Bentley, whatever the brand. So in fact, there are techniques to be respected, and they are more and more restrictive. The manufacture methodology has to be followed. It's the technical specs of each manufacturer that has to be respected, and the procedure can vary. We'll come back to this in a few minutes. We'll look at the diversity of technical specs.
Well, Max, what type of investment, time-wise and also financially, is required? Well, a basic kit that is in fact to be able to welcome an electric vehicle is 2,500 euros for the proper protection of the vehicle, of also the workers, and signaling also, and so on and so forth. And then the basic training for the operator, about 1,000 euros. So that's basic training, which would have to be renewed every 3 years. And this is just to be able to welcome a hybrid or electric vehicle, to repair it with the required safety. Now, if you want to go even further and to receive and welcome electric vehicles, you would have to have specific tools per brand, because the specific marble would be needed, the battery table might be specific, and also the tooling can be specific. And then a third stage, if I move it this way, is that with regard to the riveting and bonding, brand per brand, and depending on the brand, the riveting systems might be different. Currently, we're using 6 different riveting machines because each brand would like to have its own riveting machine used, and each of them cost approximately 15,000 euros. So if you have in a given workshop 6 riveting systems, each of them costing 15,000 euros, that's costly. Well, in the past, we had just one system, and it's more or less fine. And for the bonding, depending on the type of glue, a manufacturer would select a given glue for a given part. And, well, I don't know the cost, but it's certainly expensive. And fourth, I would also say that for a given, I would say, Tesla approval, the budget required would be approximately 200,000 in just buying the small tooling. And then you have the training on the spot. And this would mean a week for a person, and this has to be renewed every 3 years, so that when you send the person outside, it's on the spot. You would have also to have the translator, and all of those costs have to be paid by us. And on top of that, when people are off for training, they cannot be productive. They cannot work in our workshops. Therefore, you have the training cost, the translation services, and the hotel, and this has to be renewed 3 times every 3 years. Well, fortunately, not all manufacturers are so restrictive, but well, we shall come back to that later on. And then there are also hidden costs from the administrative point of view. Yes, indeed. Once you are dealing with a vehicle that has been subject of an accident, well, many vehicles will come with the structural damages. And for electric vehicles, you would have to justify and who has been working on that vehicle. So for an operator, so you would have, in fact, maybe 10 people operating in such vehicles, electric vehicles, as opposed to the 40 or so operators we have. So, thank you. Thank you for that. Philippe Barou, you are manufacturing equipment for garages and exclusively for the automotive industry, so you are involved in the design, the manufacturing, and you are working also with the certification center CESVI, located in Poitiers. Can you tell us a little bit more about that cooperation and the impact upstream in terms of the way you design your tools? Well, we have a range of tools, isolated tools. In fact, I'm going to focus in my presentation on the tools. I'm not going to focus that much on the bodywork. You know what you have to do and the type of tools you need for your work. Now, what is new about hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles is that you have to take into account the risks involved for the workers, for operators. And we have been working in that area for 6 years now. It started with the number of requirements expressed by administration, and the insurance companies. And cooperation with the CESI was quite natural, the certification body. Now, we wanted to simplify our range of products to make them more accessible. Well, in fact, we're proposing isolated tools Well, everybody can do that. But if you want to have a dedicated selection of tools for specific operations on vehicles, like the battery pack, or checking the tightness of the systems, all of that is specific to our business. So the certification body helped us, in fact, to streamline our range. And as you can see on the screen, we have been working on different models of elevators. And what you can see on the screen is the 5th model, constantly evolving, because after all, we permanently are trying to come up with tools which would be usable for as many models as possible. Models are changing fast, new vehicles emerge very quickly on the market, so that we have to be reactive, and we need to develop a lifting table that can be adjusted. So some of them are air-cooled, and that's the reason why the table is expandable. So what is important here is to properly fit the table for the unfitting of the battery, and then fitting it back on the body or on the battery pack itself. Now, what are the tools available to ensure safety? And what about the investment? 10,000 euro to have the full table? Well, currently it's between 5,000 and 10,000 euros. As my colleague said, properly hosting or welcoming those vehicles, well, it would be between 1,500 and 3,000 euros, depending on the technical level. So if you want to really intervene in the battery pack, which, by the way, represents 30% of the vehicle cost, whether you are talking about a used vehicle or not, and that would mean using other tools, smaller tools, isolate the different components. And in terms of training, it requires a specific training. So if you have to actually operate at the battery level, specific tools will be needed. And also the need to have specific area, isolated area for safety reasons. Yes, and we insist a lot, at least on a regular basis. We're trying to raise the awareness of everybody in that field, so that is, the dedicated tools have to be of proper quality, and particularly because of the voltage, the gloves, the other tools. So there are systems that do test and fact the gloves. It is not, those have to be kept properly. And some of the defects, in fact, are not visible, and it can cost you your life. So you cannot just deal with this equipment, just the normal mechanical tools. For isolated tools, we have tried to have a two-layer technology, so that if there is a potential risk, then the system, the tool will change in colors. So basically you have to have the proper tooling, properly stored and safely stored. Then the charging, some of the checks cannot be performed if the battery is too weak. This cannot be neglected in terms of customer satisfaction. If, for example, the vehicle retrieve their vehicle with just a 2% charge level, that's not going to induce any satisfaction. Now, what about training? What is the cost of training somebody to be to be fit for repairing such vehicles? Well, we have a system known as compétence emploi, so fit for the job, if you like. And you have to go through training, basically for electric vehicles, and you can also have the continuous training. And the whole cost is, in fact, borne by a specific system, 16 euros per hour, and all of that is also paid for. So it's like a compensation to the company for having sent off his employee for training. With regard to the gloves, you will be perspiring a lot, in fact, sweating, if you like, a lot with such gloves. So you have to use cotton-based gloves. So you have to train people to enable them to operate on such vehicles. So how many people do you train currently? How many sessions? Well, approximately 10,000 people. I'm not in a position to say how many are meant to work on the body of the car. So, in fact, the part of the vehicle that tend to be impacted quickly is the body. And if there is such an accident, this means that there is a higher risk in terms of, electricity-related risk. So, therefore, we train people on how to properly make sure that the vehicle is safe from an electricity point of view, and the manufacturer documentation acts like a Bible. You need to use specific boxes and also systems in order to make sure that the vehicle is not under tension, and so illustrating all the different steps to be followed, the type of personal equipment that would be required, and also sort of monitoring so that you know who has been working on the vehicle, at which hour, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to make the vehicle safe, so that the person, for example, you can make sure that it's the same person who would operate on that vehicle if possible. So on the ground, well, once the vehicle has been set aside with the voltage system removed and so on, people tend to think that anybody can intervene at that stage. But in fact, there could still be energy in the vehicle itself. So the battery damage can still contain some voltage and can be risky. You can say, well, it's safe, it's isolated, I can remove my personal equipment, and that's where you are likely to face the danger. So do they tend to go beyond the basic level? And do you feel, for example, a difference depending on the training level, so for example, between the bodywork, those specialized in bodywork as opposed to others? Well, the authorization is not linked to the position itself, it's linked to the actual activity you perform. So much depends on how you actually organize your company, your operations. So you might either you want somebody, a person, to do everything from A to Z, or you split the different jobs so that in fact a person will be in charge of making the vehicle safe from electricity point of view. So you might have two people focusing on that activity, and then you have the properly mechanical work, or you decide to have people go through the full training so that the person will be authorized even to work, to secure the vehicle from this electricity point of view, and then to work on the vehicle. So so far we have 9 sites who are able to deliver this, let's say, training. So you have the cleaning, you have the replacement of some part of the battery. So all of that is gone through during the training, and it's part of what we call the fit for a job or competence emploi system. So in fact, electric vehicles, did they require more competence, in particular with regard to repairing the metal part of the vehicle or the plastics? Well, coming back to what was said previously, in fact, the purpose was to reduce, first of all, the weight of the vehicle, and therefore, plastics have gained ground, so to speak, within the component of the vehicle. So you would have, therefore, to adjust to these new components. Well, I think competences are different, but once again, this is linked to the aluminium part. For example, 2 days would be devoted to aluminium or related operations, like you identify the part and how you repair that aluminium part and so on. Well, I just wanted to say that the GNFA, we are working with GNFA to organize our own training for bodywork, and thank you, by the way, Sébastien, for your support. Thank you, Stéphane, too. So you have the aluminium part, and then you have the composite material. So 2 days training, 70% of that training period is pragmatic, I mean hands-on, and so no remote training, because it's really focused on know-how, on practice, actual practice on the material. Before I give you the floor, Jean-Marc, maybe a few figures. According to GIPA, 82% of the independent body workers are involved in the repair of electric vehicles. How many such workshops have people available for that job? Well, you have to also take into account the dealers, agents also, I mean the brand agents. They have the habilitation. That's after what the manufacturer requires. And, well, I would say 50% of our people are trained for working on electric vehicles. So is there a sort of discrepancy in terms of turning such vehicles to the dealers or to the agents? Well, I would tell you that it's the least expensive that would be selected, and insurance companies are not going to select I mean the workshop because this or that workshop has been habilitated or not. In fact, they would select the least expensive one. What you are complaining about is the lack of information or shortage of information, in particular the newcomers on the market. So is that due to the increase in number of brands? Well, you know, vehicles are coming from different quarters, the Chinese and others. In fact, our fear is that the Tesla model, which puts us in a number of difficulties because it requires between 150 to 200,000 euros investment. The question is, what if Renault or Peugeot in the future were to impose that standard for repairing their own vehicles? So, for example, with Tesla, once you have in fact intervened on Tesla, the warranty is no longer valid. So the repairer who repairs 400 vehicles per year would not be willing to invest to cope with electric vehicles. With BMW, from what I know, with regard to the riveting and bonding, when I visit different regions and explain the constraints that are linked, many, in fact, just discover. So is that up to the expert to explain that if they were to change the rear wing, then it has to be riveted and glued? So it's not his job, but he is the person to say that things have not been done properly. That's the role of the expert. Max? I would tend to agree with the previous speaker. But the manufacturer's world, to be able to keep their reusable parts, they would approve workshops based on that. It's their policy. For example, for the fraud approval, we are, I think, among the first to have done that. Very few of us, in fact, with such an approval. Others will be approved, other brands like Fiskars and others, including Chinese brands, would like to be able to have full control of the repair process of their vehicles. And, more importantly, to be able to resell parts. So that subject is for another roundtable. Well, let us continue with the challenges when it comes to the repairability of electric vehicles in case of a major shock. Well, I would say that in repairability terms, it doesn't change a lot. The changing a door or a hood, that is no issue. The real constraint is the transfer of the load, and particularly the battery. The shocks can be more impactful. For example, if we're talking about a lateral shock at the level of the battery, things can turn out to be more complicated. And having discussed with some of operators, experts no longer take the risk of going too far. We know that, in fact, the repairability of the battery pack is very complicated, and you know that in terms of cost, it accounts for 30 to 40% of the overall vehicle cost. So changing the bottom part of the vehicle, and if experts, in fact, wouldn't like to get involved further. Customers would like to repair their vehicles, but experts refrain from going too far, and because this takes into account the economic value of the car after an accident. Well, I would say that Tesla has opened, so to speak, a new way of selling and repairing vehicles. Having said this, we have been approved by 15 brands, Bentley, Rolls, Jaguar. All of them are reviewing their repair methodologies. As I said before, we are likely to generate between 9 to 12 million euros. So we are repairing everything. We do quite a good job, in fact. I'm not talking about the Chinese brands who have not been involved significantly so far. But in any case, here again, those brands will keep their value longer as compared to the mechanical, purely mechanical vehicles. Well, what I'm trying to say is that, in fact, manufacturers would like to take into account the changes and make sure that the dealerships do adapt, and maybe in the future dealers might disappear, replaced by a configurator. So this is linked to the fact that, well, diversification will develop through the bodywork. The manufacturer would say, well, you have to be approved, and if we have all, they have to be approved by the manufacturer, then some of us would end up having nothing to do. So as of today, we do not suffer from such a potential impact, but while making an electric vehicle safe, that's something, and for the rest, it's quite conventional. So it doesn't change anything to that extent. However, my fear with regard to the body repair is that manufacturers might say, well, people have to go straight to the approved repairers, brand-approved repairers, and in such a situation, we won't be able to do anything. So, very last word. I agree with what Mark said, but we have to take into account the following. 40 years ago, 70% of collision repairs were performed by independent operators. And today, 70% of such repairs have to go through the manufacturers. If we don't keep a keen eye, such companies, the companies would die, and the manufacturers would take up the market share. So we have to be careful. Okay, in any case, I would like to thank you all, and I'm going to give the floor to my colleague, Emmanuel Taillard. Thank you, Romain. Thank you for your very keen questions. So we have to be back here at 1:30 to talk about electronic and remote maintenance. Have a nice day.